Let me introduce a dear friend, Professor Dr. Achim Michalke, professor at Ostfalia University. He's in Wolfenbüttel, and we know each other from a former life at Philipp Holtzmann. And Achim, I have to thank you. You were the guy bringing me to Ostfalia University, and you are the reason why I'm here. So I'm really thrilled and proud that you are with us tonight in this conference. It's a really great pleasure. You taught me e-learning. We did new e-learning techniques in the beginning. We experimented, and I learned so much from you. That is really amazing. I'm now proud to be a member of his new study program. I cannot list as many study programs as he started, but he started a study program for the future, and this is sustainability and risk management. And I'm very happy to be part of that. And I think, Achim, this is a really great study program that is facing the future, as Professor Saritas said before. I hope you shed some light on the new study program. And you also start, as I learned from your topic, about the limitations in intuition. So tomorrow, we will discuss research on intuition. And before we have even started, Achim will show us the limitations. And I'm very, very curious what you will tell us. The floor is yours, Achim. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Marcus. So many laurels in advance that will be very difficult for me to fill them. Well, hello together, and my name is Achim Michalke, and I'm a professor for technical management at the Ostfalia, and I'm as well a founding member of the DigVert. The DigVert is a research institute where we work on questions of risk and sustainability. Sounds strange, but does make a lot of sense. We have members there from all faculties of Ostfalia, as well as associate members from other universities and institutions around the world. At DigVert, we have also set up a master course on sustainability and risk management, and this is what Markus said. So it is a master course which is taught online and in English, so that everyone on the world is able to assign and to follow our courses there. Intuition is often praised as an alternative to rational thinking, as the natural way for decision making, guiding us effortlessly and infallibly to the right decision, even when we have little information to work with. In fact, there are situations where intuition leads us to amazing insights, in particular when we're dealing with other persons. Although we cannot rationalize how we got this insight. In other situations, however, our intuition is hopelessly lost, for example, in technical issues, and our technological development is completely based on rational thinking, not in intuition. Thus, it is important to know how powerful is our intuition and where are its limits. When can we rely on it, and when should we be careful and countercheck its signals with rational thought? Intuition is an activity of our brain, as well as rational thinking is. It is quite effortless, unintentional, and it materializes as emotions or feelings, almost immediately after a triggering event. But unlike with rational thought, we have no access to the machinery. We cannot identify the reasoning behind the result. The feelings reach us holistic and unexplained. Nonetheless, behavioral scientists have been successful in decoding at least part of the mechanics of our intuition by methods of backtracking. Intuition works as a set of heuristics, applying built-in rules on our experiences and perceptions. An excellent overview on these heuristics is given by Kahneman, who calls it fast thinking. While the experience and perceptions intuition draws upon are necessarily our own, the built-in rules seem to have developed evolutionary, drawing on some 100,000 years of trial and error. The processing rules are proxies that deliver imperfect, but fast and in most cases reliable results, even on very scarce input. Fastness and stability were, in those former times, were more important for survival than precision was. An example is the anchoring heuristics. Maybe you have heard of it. In lack of a reference value, intuition just takes the first value at hand as a starter, no matter whether it is linked to the problem that we have to solve or not. The result of our intuition is presented to us as emotions, directly urging us to act without the byway of insight. On the other hand, rational thinking, slow thinking by Kahneman, focuses on the principle of causality. We either elicit the rules of causality from our own observations, or we learn them from others. Unlike intuition, rational thinking thus enables us to accumulate and transfer knowledge. Rational thinking is the particular activity that distinguishes us humans from other animals, from other species. But rational thinking is slow and arduous, and it's difficult to apply it under uncertainty. Fundamentally, when making predictions, now I have to switch to the next page here. Hopefully that works. Fundamentally, when making predictions about what will happen in the future, intuition uses the same process as rational thinking, the process of induction. In fact, induction is the only way of predicting that we have. From observations from the past, we detect regularities that can be formulated as rules, and then we apply these rules on our present perceptions to predict their future development. Just the rules that are applied and the process of their application are different between intuition on one side and rational thinking on the other. Intuition uses, at least in part, rules that have been developed during evolution, not being restricted to causality. As a consequence, intuition has no access to intellectually learning. Induction is based on the principle of uniformity. The future will be like the past, at least in certain fundamental aspects. As we know from experience, this works quite well, but it also has its limits. Unfortunately, we are still very weak at pinpointing these limits. Some 150 years ago, at the climax of the Age of Enlightenment, scientists were quite convinced that we could completely determine our future, just given enough data. This idea of complete determinability, called Laplace's demon, fell to pieces when further insights arrived, like the quantum theory or Gödel's incompleteness theorem. There seem to be some fundamental mechanisms in nature that, as far as we know by today, limit the predictability of the future, independent of intuition or rational thinking. One of them is chance, which seems to be built into quantum mechanics, leaving us no way to escape from it. Amazingly, chance itself does not prevent predictability, but makes it a statistical enterprise. Every prediction is a matter of probability. As long as we have an ensemble with a big number of identical objects, like gas molecules, we can still make highly precise predictions on the ensemble, while not on the individual elements. However, when the ensemble consists of highly individual elements, like people or enterprises, predictions get very difficult. Chance limits every prediction, whether by intuition or by rational thinking. Unfortunately, in most cases, except some very simple ones, we don't even know how insecure our predictions are. In everyday life, we tend to grossly overestimate our capabilities of prediction and grossly underestimate the role of chance. Another mechanism that limits predictability is complexity. A complex system consists of various elements or subsystems that are linked to each other by various feedback mechanisms. Given the abundance of complex systems around us, it is amazing how little we know about complexity. Complex systems behave in unexpected ways, even if the feedback rules within it are simple. They show properties called emergent that cannot be explained by the behavior of its elements alone. An example are thoughts of the brain that cannot be derived from the knowledge of nerve impulses. We still know very little about complex systems in general, and we can predict them only within a very limited scope, like a weather forecast. Their short-term development of the weather, is quite predictable, while the long-term tendencies disappear in the fog. Maybe our intuition has rules about complex systems that we don't know and that we can still not rationalize. Maybe it will help us in dealing with them in social settings. So, both intuition and rational thinking have their strengths, which none of both is perfect. When should we prefer intuition, and when should we rely on rational thought? When a decision has to be taken instantaneously, we have no choice. Intuition is immediate, while rational thinking is slow. In addition, we cannot switch off our intuition. Emotions come up if you want them or not. When you bounce your head at the cupboard door that you left open, the immediate reaction is anger, together with the thought, which idiot left this door open? And you can't avoid it. The only thing we can do with intuition is to catch the emotion and subject it to rational scrutiny. But we cannot make intuition undone. It will always have influence on our decisions, if we like that or not. The strength of intuition certainly lies in social interactions. Despite all psychology and social sciences, our rational knowledge on how humans feel and act is still fragmentary. Rational simplifications, like the Homo economicus, are so misleading that they are rarely useful. Our intuition is excellent in recognizing and interpreting even tiny signals sent by others and getting us to act accordingly. It is also good at estimating the behavior of groups. On the other hand, when dealing with technical equipment, which in general is not complex but just complicated, our intuition is of no help, and we have to rely on rational thinking. As intuition is working with proxies rather than exact rules, its results are somewhat displaced and, worse, systematically so. As a consequence, our intuition consistently makes the same errors or biases in certain situations. And as it is so, others may exploit these errors to get us into a behavior that is in their interest rather than in ours, as you can easily explore when you are dealing in an Oriental bazaar. On the other hand, these biases may be used to nudge us into decisions that are favorable for us, but we otherwise would hesitate to make. Knowing these errors is crucial for us to happily use our own intuition without getting fooled by it. Two of these errors shall be mentioned here in some more detail. Probably the most important shortcoming of intuition is its focus on short-term consequences. Well, in survival mode, you discount any long-term consequences in favor of your short-term achievements. And this is exactly what our intuition does. This is the reason why people smoke, eat unhealthy food, buy on credit, and engage in other risky ventures, well knowing but ignoring the consequences. Most certainly, this is also the reason why sustainability is so hard to accomplish. There are no emotions for long-term benefits. Whenever you are contemplating a decision with long-term consequences, you should therefore make sure that your intuition is cross-checked with rationality. Another problem with intuition is that it conveys assertiveness, whether it is justified or not. Intuition is not self-critical. Intuition has a self-reinforcing mechanism that leads to a stable result, no matter how weak the initial tendency is, leaving us no indication about its own reliability. That is helpful in situations where any decision is better than no decision, but it lures us into trusting on our intuition even when it is not reliable. Many investors, for example, are fond of their intuition within the stock market. That sounds sensible on first sight because stock markets are interactions among humans. But studies have proven unanimously that intuition, as well as rational thinking, is not capable to outperform the markets. Stock markets are well randomized, although this may be less obvious there as with roulette. Let me come to a conclusion. Our intuition is a powerful tool, but it has its limits, as every other tool as well. Provided that we are aware of these limits and do not blindly rely on our intuition, it will serve us well in everyday life. In most cases, intuition combined with some rational thought is the best way to solve a problem. Concerning the long-term issues of our society, however, like sustainability, intuition is rather part of the problem than part of the solution, and we should better apply rational thought to it. Thank you.
Achim, thank you so much. That shed some light on the limits on intuition before we started the discussion on this on intuition. And every presenter tomorrow should be aware the critics is already recorded and spoken on. Achim, excellent speech. We are researching on intuition. You gave us great insights into the limits. And next time we'd like to hear more about the sustainability program we have at Ostfalia, because that leads to my next presenter. Achim, thank you so much for being the keynote speaker tonight on intuition. And tomorrow we have excellent keynote speakers on intuition as well. Dr. Marta Sinclair, who published the book, the Handbook on Intuition Research, and Dr. Francesca McCartney from California, talking about intuition medicine.